I've been appointed by the President of the Republic, President Cyril Matamela Ramaphosa, to run the portfolio of mineral resources. That happened on the 26th of February, and since then I've been familiarizing myself with the key challenges facing the department and the mining industry, because the department is irrelevant without the industry itself. Against this background, there are key aspects that we need to address with agency and speed. They will enable the industry to operate optimally and have the meaningful contribution to the growth and development of our country. First thing is policy and legislation issues. Uppermost in our minds is that we should ensure that there is policy and regulatory certainty in the country. Because if we don't have that certainty, everybody is in doubt. In this regard, we need to see finality with regards to the mining charter and the Mineral and Petroleum Resource Development Amendment Bill, with the aim of improving investor confidence. Now, the mining charter concerns transformation. Transformation means ownership, control, management, and meaningful participation of Black South Africans in the economy in general and in the industry in particular. Such transformation can only occur in a growing and competitive mining industry. Our emphasis on transformation is on mining industry that benefits everybody: producers, big and small, workers, communities, and the economy in the country. Consequently, in our view, transformation and competitiveness are not mutually exclusive. Therefore, the long-term objective must be captured in the vision for the industry. That is what we're working on, that we have a clear, coherent, consistent vision for the industry. Where does the industry want to be in 30 years, in 20 years' time, in 30 years' time, into the future? That vision must include transformation and competitiveness, inclusive growth. Those are the issues that should be entailed there. To ensure progress on the charter, this past weekend, we met with the representatives of organized business, organized labor, invited members of the portfolio committee, and this marked the start of an ongoing and frank dialogue between us and the relevant role players regarding the finalization of the mining charter and other important issues pertaining to the growth competitiveness of the industry. Now, this is important because we met the shareholders. I call them social partners, because they are internal partners of the industry. We met them over the weekend. I noticed that the business they chose to write an article on the basis of sources, it's up to them, and said many things yesterday. Wrong headline about that meeting. It was quite a constructive and a good meeting, I can tell you that. The meeting, which was robust and open, recognized that there was a lack of consultation and engagement between the industry and the ministry and the department in the past. And this had contributed to a trust deficit between these two partners in ensuring that the industry grows and plays its role. And the meeting dealt with disagreements on the mining charter 3. Let me explain what happened there, because people may have various views on this. the issue of the starting point was whether we should use Charter 3 as a starting point or should we start from scratch and draft a charter. Our view as a department was we can't start as if there's nothing that has happened. There's Charter 3, there's a disagreement on it, here is it, let's discuss it. If we must amend it and correct certain aspects, we will do so. That was the issue that was exaggerated in the Business Day article yesterday. So we engaged openly, robustly and candidly. And it considered areas of convergence and divergence regarding the charter. It also recognized that other affected actors who were not present in the deliberations would need to be included in the process. Now we concluded that we set up 2 teams, and those teams are given 3 weeks to work intensively on a number of issues. One will focus on transformation in the mining charter. The other one will engage on issues of growth and competitiveness. And these teams will report in 3 weeks' time. Now, once these teams meet in 2 weeks' time, we're hoping that out of the work, a vision for the industry will emerge, and it will guide all of us, and we'll all have to stick to the agreement and the vision that has been developed collectively. That is our aim. And the ministry has committed the DMR to engage in an open, transparent way to re-establish trust among the social partners. We therefore agreed to revive the forum that was formed a few years ago. It has been allowed to collapse, akin to the mining industry growth, development, and employment task team. It's called mid-debt. And I know that when Mkogeli is in his mode, he calls it mid-debt. It's mid-debt. And mid-debt had been created when the industry was confronted with massive challenges on the back of the 2008 financial crisis, which was global. And through collaborative efforts, the partners significantly minimized the negative impacts of the financial crisis. And this revived structure will enable us as social partners to meet regularly and proactively deal with issues confronting the sector instead of waiting for a crisis for us to meet. We think that engagement should be ongoing. It can't be an issue that only deals with crisis. It should be an issue that is a feature of the industry. The ministry is currently developing a planned program for consultation with communities in the charter. It is my wish that the final charter is finalized and gazetted during the first half of this year. Let me tell you what this program means. It means we'll have a stakeholder meeting in Limpopo, we'll have a stakeholder meeting in the Northwest, we'll have a stakeholder meeting in Gauteng, in Mpumalanga, we'll go to all the major mining areas and have stakeholder meetings there, rather than a small meeting centralized and saying that is consultation. It will not be rallies, it will not be public meetings, it will be meeting of stakeholders in those areas. And we'll also go to the major labor sending areas, where there's a concentration of mine workers, because when we talk of improving and developing communities, it is not only where the mine is located, it should also mean where the labor is sourced from. The MPRDA is already in the NCOP. We're hoping that it will be finalized sooner than later and be promulgated. We're considering appropriate ways to ensuring urgent progress in that level. Other matters that we're looking at were actively involved in resolving the challenges at Tegeta, a group of mines, particularly the 4 operational ones, Korenfontein, Shiva, Rockfontein, Optimum. We've met with the business rescue practitioners, mine management. We've met with the workers at Optimum. The business rescue practitioners have agreed and indicated that these assets are still good assets, which can be viable, mined by other operators. So that process is underway. We're keeping a close watch in it. As a regulator, we don't want to run it, because one of the things that we want to ensure doesn't happen is where, as the ministry or the department, we begin to appoint who should do what without following due processes. We must follow due process and select operators there. We've also appeared before the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee to provide it with a progress report on this matter. We have also indicated our openness to cooperate with Parliament through this committee. This is important to ensure Parliament oversight of our work and our accountability to it. Our aim is to find solutions that will keep the operations open and protect jobs. One of the things that we must deal with is this thing of care and maintenance, where you keep a mine under care and maintenance when there's still viable deposits in that mine, precisely because maybe you are reacting to the cyclical behavior of commodity prices and other reasons. We think that mines must be kept open. And I always link that to what I call high grading, where operators focus on high grade areas and leave marginal areas. If you don't combine the two, what you normally do in the long term, you sterilize marginal areas in a mine. So those are the things that we're paying attention to. And therefore, if we can find a solution and ensure that jobs are protected, we'll be happy. We want to see a thriving industry that creates jobs and a certain investment. Ultimately, the mining industry, as a key component of our economy, must contribute to the economic growth while meeting the commitments in the social and labor plans that it committed itself to. So it is not either social labor plans or a thriving industry, it is both. It is a thriving industry, a competitive industry, a growing industry that will meet the social labor plans with ease. So if you want employment creation, we must ensure that the industry is alive, is healthy, it can generate those jobs and protect them. Furthermore, we're paying attention to matters of health and safety in the mining industry. Last year, the sector recorded an increase in fatalities for the first time since 2007. In 2017, 88 facilities were recorded compared to 73 in 2016. And since the beginning of this year, we've seen 15 fatalities already in the industry. This requires urgent intervention. However, the application of the use of Section 54, where you stop operations, should be an absolute last resort, and avoid it to be used to manipulate companies, because certain decisions must be taken. It must be a section we use to deal with health and safety issues when it is appropriate. The report into the incident, the accident in Lily Mine, has been completed. We've just received it. We're going through it. We'll update you on it. On administrative issues, which is the last issue, one, we've come to a department and find that the majority of senior managers are acting, acting director, acting. polish it, deploy it appropriately. We will therefore delve into the allegations of corruption and manipulation. Those allegations directed at any official of the department will be attended to. If any board is found guilty, serious action will be taken. Related to this is the critical importance of licensing system and the process that is fair, transparent, and efficient. Let me conclude by saying, ladies and gentlemen, that this is work in progress. We've just started, we're getting our feet on the ground. I thank you for the time and hope that we'll continue engaging with issues. I'm sure, and you will take questions. This is my news report, right?
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll take your questions. I'll take 4 questions in this first round. David, Ellen, Paul, Selena.
Minister David Mackay, Mining MX. The initial report from that first weekend meeting on the mining charter was that almost indicated that the third mining charter is a document that in many respects is something worth sticking to. Just based on following what you've said today, to what extent will you be prepared to depart from much of the detail in that? Would you, for instance, have a completely open mind on rubbing out entire sections of that? So what I'm looking for, in essence, is just an indication as to, how creative you will be in respect of using Mining Charter 3 as a base case.
Ellen?
Hi, Paul Burkett with Bloomberg News. Minister, if you could elaborate a bit on, I thought you said something to the effect of reviewing the department for wrongdoing. If you could just kind of go into how that's being executed, or did I misunderstand you? The DMR?
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. You mentioned reviewing the department, I believe, the DMR, for any wrongdoing that went on. If you could elaborate on how that will be conducted. And also separately, in the meetings over the weekend, could you address the absence of AMCU and how you plan to go forward with that at this point? Thank you.
Hello, and then second business day. Minister, could I ask why Mining Charter 3, if it was such a deeply discredited document, to the point that the Chamber of Mines took it to court and outlined deep reservations about it, why not just scrap it entirely and start something new, or use Charter 2 as the basis for these negotiations? And then secondly, if you could elaborate on the amendments to the MPRDA. You say you wanted these expedited. How would this overlap with talks around the Charter? Because surely that's going to inform a lot of what the new Charter is going to look like.
Minister, you have an A-link industry that's caught between the imperatives of transformation and competitiveness. On one hand, you have declining contributions to GDP, declining investment, declining output. On the other hand, you have rising labor costs and rising energy costs, electricity costs, and other input costs. So add to this the reaction of the markets when Mining Charter 3 was introduced, a 51 billion loss on the stock exchange to mining stocks. Why then is it not apparent that perhaps we have a systemic problem, a far deep-rooted problem, and that Mining Charter 3 should be off the table and a fresh start between stakeholders is due? Secondly, is 3 months enough to deal with such a systemic problem in a sustainable manner? And finally, What about the involvement of communities and mining communities in particular? Thank you.
I'm one person who is very sensitive to something called obsession, rather than dealing with issues that are confronting you. Because obsessions limit your thinking. Actually, what is interesting is that what is articulated by many of you was articulated by the chamber in the meeting itself, meaning that to a great extent you represent their views. You have not raised the views that were raised by the NUM, by SAMTA, by UWASA, and Solidarity in the meeting. You are articulating views of the Chamber of Mines, which tells us the relationships. Now, Chapter 3 is on the table. It is gazetted. The Chamber took it to court and you agreed to engage them. The starting point for engagement is not to say there's nothing, it's to say you have problems with Chapter 3. What are those problems? That's where you start. What are the problems? Because Chapter 3 to a great extent overlaps with Chapter 2. Then let's identify the problems on Chapter 3, which is what we did after a candid and a tough engagement with the Chamber. They gave us their problems, Chapter 3, in writing. That's why now the teams that are working on the details will have something to work on. And our commitment is that anything that is reasonably raised by in those objections will be looked into, if need be, amend Chapter 3. That's our commitment. So it's not a question of being tied and married to Chapter 3 that we cannot move. We know now what the concerns are, we're looking at them. If something is genuine, we will change it. That is the issue. But we cannot start from a clean paper and say there's no Chapter. There's Chapter 3. The Chamber took us to court on Chapter 3, and that is the basis of our discussion. How do we resolve the problems and the bottlenecks? The first problem has been resolved, of not talking. We're talking to them. We talked to them 2 days. We said, if you want us on Tuesday, we'll be there. If you want us on Friday, we'll be there. That is the commitment we're having. And then we put together teams that will engage them. We gave them 3 weeks because there's an Easter weekend, that will be a dead weekend. But 3 weeks, we want them to come back, we'll assemble again, meet, and see how far have we gone. And having seen the work that we did over the weekend, I'm convinced that 3 months is enough, after long, it's too long, from where I see there. The absence of AMCU was invited, it didn't arrive. Today they are marching. I'm going there to have them going to receive their memorandum because we'll talk to them, but processes will not be held ransom by any player in the industry. If you don't come, we'll continue. It doesn't matter who that partner is, we'll continue. MPRDA is legislation. It was taken to court, to the Constitutional Court, by the way. And the Constitutional Court ruled that it was constitutional. It's a law. So we did with the charter is a tool for transformation. It's not law. So we want to complete the MPRDA, work hard, complete the charter, remove policy and regulatory uncertainty. And if we do that, then we can get into business of mining. Now, an ailing industry. Ailing industry. I don't know, when you talk of an ailing industry, you have done a data analysis of the platinum sector. Is it ailing? Have you analyzed the coal sector? Is it ailing? Have you analyzed your manganese sector? Is it ailing? Have you analyzed your iron ore? Is it ailing? You can list them. You don't describe the industry as ailing because 130-year gold mining is declining. So mining in South Africa is not equal to gold mining. Gold mining is declining because it has been active for 130 years plus. So you can't just see the industry in the picture of the gold mining industry. And I think that description itself is wrong. And that's why then you ask another wrong question. Because your description of the industry is wrong, of declaring it as a rising cost. Right is rising costs. You know, one time by prior learning I learned something called productivity and efficiency. And I was told that it is about your ability to produce more with the same amount, whether it is capital or labor or anything, or produce the same with less. Now, I don't know the rising cost of labor. How do you call them? Do you call wage increase the rising cost? Therefore, because the industry is in decline, workers must have their earnings eaten up by inflation, and that is right. I think that approach is dangerous to me. The reason that there is a bargaining process in the industry is because employers and their employees, it's their employees, talk to each other and reach a settlement. When they reach a settlement, they both agree that we can live with it. So now, then when you say an ailing industry and therefore declining and rising cost, I will question that analysis as not being efficient, in my own view. You think of an ideal situation where workers should just work and not get increases because the industry is ailing. I would ask you to go and read the generation of value and link it to the exploitation of labor in generating that value. Once you understand that concept, you will appreciate that this question is not only wrong, but dangerous. You didn't listen to me. I said, with a schedule, we'll have meetings with communities and all stakeholders in areas of mining. What we are not going to do, let me tell you what we are not going to do. We're not going to go and negotiate with communities if we own mines. We're a regulator. We're a regulator, we own no mine. We'll go there and tell them this is the direction we're taking. And in the mining charter, there is provision for community trust in terms of shareholding. If that is accepted and we agree on that, then that will be the issue. What we're not going to do is when you go to an area, you find that traditional leaders in a Pala Royal House are split into two. They fight among themselves because they want to access that community trust fund. It will not be the Department of Mineral Resources business to unite royal houses. They will have to sort them out. If they are fighting, that money will accumulate in the trust fund. It will be paid, and therefore communities will be involved at various levels of the mining industry. But the charter itself talks about communities, there's provision for shareholding for communities which are free carry, and shareholding for the workers. That will continue. That's it. But communities must also appreciate that they can only benefit if mines are profitable, are competitive, are growing, and are producing. If they don't produce, there will be no benefit accruing to communities. That's it.